Okay. This should be killed. Go to. That's being shared. Slideshow.
Now, see, the record button actually says record on it.
Yeah,
How did you get that to happen?
because I use Linux. Ask a contentious question and get a contentious answer. All right.
It's more like a statement.
So I'm recording now. Welcome. Welcome to RPIrates for November. Come on in. It's okay. We don't bite. Welcome to RPIrates for November. Today, we're going to talk about all the different kinds of support. Welcome. Grab some pizza or salad. The various different kinds of support that Posit, which is formerly known as RStudio, provides for LLMs. This is not a discussion of vibe coding, for example. This is not a discussion per se about coding, having ChatGPT or whatever code for you. Although I think at some point I'm going to talk about some tools that can be used in that way, IDE extensions and that sort of thing. And this is kind of by way of review. I call it recalling a simpler time. In this very room, in February 2023, we did it was a pretty fun, pretty entertaining RPIrates on how you could use this new thing called ChatGPT and some other tools from this company called OpenAI to actually code in R. And at that time, the model was something like GPT 3.5, and it was hilarious when you gave it. Sometimes you would give it a challenge for coding, and it would give you a result that a plausible result, understandable. But then you'd ask it the same question, and it would cite an error that somebody had posted into Stack Overflow. That's how bad it was at coding at R. Okay, it was but it was very, very funny, and it was very. And I know slides are available. I will make the slide set available via our event page. That the slides from that talk are available. I think there might be a video of that as well that's available. If you're just kind of curious about what it was like back then when there was not any official support being provided by what was called RStudio, the company at that time. Just a little bit of background. Some of you are familiar with this. We over the past couple of years down in Tedros World, we've had a couple of projects related to fact checking. One was our original was called ChatBS, which was a kind of an evolving app, shiny app for question answering, but kind of facilitating experimentation with different LLM models. So what ChatBS really allowed you to do is let's ask a question and get say 5 or 10 answers. So and we could compare the different answers coming back that from a particular model, and we could see how they were similar, how they were different. It allowed you to append your prompt with things like explain step by step, which is a key phrase for chain of thought pseudo reasoning, and then we expanded ChatBS further to be able to use different models. So compare GPT-4 against GPT 3.5 or Llama 3 against GPT-4, those sorts of things. So ChatBS, the initial, was a great platform for doing some experimentation, but there was a lot of manual intervention. Then we had two students at Tetherless, two grad students, create what was called ChatBS NextGen. And what that did was a much more orderly structuring of experimental pipelines of the kind I just discussed. Based on ChatBS, we actually got some papers published on the efficacy of using of comparing answers provided by the LLM with an authoritative knowledge graph called FoodKG. With ChatBS NextGen, we were actually able to automate those experiments. So in a sense, we wrote papers about what experiments what we could do manually with ChatBS, and then we created this platform, ChatBS NextGen, that automated it and do much more sophisticated things. ChatBS actually allows the experimenter to describe in natural language certain data selection, certain other things, and it uses LLMs to write functions in R, which it then uses in the experimental pipeline. So it's using LLMs to create these little code modules, which it then will use in the experimental pipeline. So there's this evolution that's happening over years just in terms of us using it. So just a little bit of Posit is the company formerly known as RStudio.
But the product is still RStudio.
The product is still RStudio server. They rebranded a couple of years ago when their customer base was interested. Their customer base is primarily what you would call enterprise. It's companies that are doing data analytics. They wanted both the same kind of consulting and productization that RStudio was doing with R. They also wanted with Python. They wanted integrated Python and R solutions. So Posit so RStudio said, we embrace all of this. There's no reason not to, but we got to rebrand because RStudio is confusing. So I was actually quite surprised. I knew that, some of the things I'm going to describe here, I knew existed, but there's so much more that I didn't realize that they were actually doing. So there are packages that they provide for accessing LLMs. Ellmer, get it? Ellmer is their R package for accessing a whole variety of LLM models. And I'll go into greater detail into all those different ones. So ChatBS NextGen actually makes extensive use of Ellmer, and it's really sweet because they, even though there's a variation in how different models from different vendors want you to submit those prompts and to get those results, it streamlines that process so that in your code it's a bit more uniform. Chatless is a Python package that works very similarly to Ellmer. And I should make a mention, a lot of this LLM stuff is spearheaded by Hadley Wickham of ggplot, of Tidyverse. He's the chief scientist at Posit now, and he's really leading a lot of this work. Ragnar, as you might guess, it facilitates RAG-based coding with based on R, and it works with Ellmer. A lot of these tools are using Ellmer as sort of the critical element. If you're interested in building various kinds of Shiny apps that are doing chat, Shiny Chat is a package that facilitates that. Vitals is a really interesting little package that, given a set of tests, such as an example, and I'll go into a little bit more detail in this. I'm just kind of giving you the overview of these things. You can have these test questions like 2 + 2 = 4 and this and that. And it's almost like Vitals sets up unit tests for you for testing different models. It's not a very sophisticated thing. It's kind of a lower level sort of evaluation. So they call it evaluating LLMs, but that's, I think based on my cursory review of it, it's evaluation means potentially bigger things than what they're doing, but it's out there. Different ways to enhance LLM-based workflows. So these are sort of analogous to these LLM workflow frameworks that you can get. IDEA integrations, there's a couple different kinds of IDEA integrations. So package-oriented one is Chatter. There's some packages that facilitate different kinds of data science things you might be doing. So there is, and I should say that I provided this link, and it might be this web page that Posit has made available through, I think, their blog site, Posit Generative AI Solutions. Goes through all of this, provides links, provides documentations, relevant blog posts describing each release. It's a very useful resource. And so how do I get back to where I was? Never do that again. I guess you can see it okay. Where is my slideshow thing? There we go. Sorry. Okay. So ellmer. So in each of these different pages that Posit provides describing these different tools kind of has this interlinking. So ellmer, as I said, is the go-to thing. If you're interested in doing LLMs, ellmer handles it. These are currently the different LLM providers that it works with. You can see kind of the format that it uses, and notice that their format for naming the functions is kind of analogous to how you call the APIs, sort of the chat, and so each one of these functions is obviously wrapping the specific way that you need to interact with that particular model and parameterization that's necessary. And this is so far extensive than what we had. I mean, 2 years ago, there were individuals creating packages on making available on GitHub for interacting with LLMs, and very specific, like here's how you can interact with OpenAI. Here's how you can do this. But what Posit has done is just make them all available in one package. If I get ellmer, I'll know how to talk to these different models. There's a lot of helpful advice. They're making it really easy to kind of come up to speed on using LLMs in your R-based work. They're kind of coaching you here. They think, things like, before you even begin, check with your organization. If your company's got a license, if your company's got rules about using LLMs in your work, double check with that. So this is kind of evidence of the Posit being kind of enterprise open. It's not just us, teachers and students using R. They're kind of focused on an industrial data analytics marketplace as well. And they, then some eye openers like, if you're, there's some free options from OpenAI and Anthropic, but it's also there, those industrial side paid options. Google Gemini has got some monster free models available. If you want to run it locally, we often forget we can do R locally. There's Olama recommendation. So there's just a ton of resources available for ellmer. And I had thought about just doing an RPIrates just on ellmer, but when I started looking into it, I said, well, there's so much that they're doing. Here's just a review of vitals, and there's a couple different ways that you can use vitals for sanity checking what your code is doing, what the particular model is doing. I'm not going into a lot of depth with these slides. ellmer is original R work. Vitals is work that was done in Python that's been sort of wrapped and based on this inspect framework that was Python. If we've got a chance, I could probably pop out and, well, I can do that right now. Vitals tidyverse. Okay. If you guys can see here, let's go into, this is a very simple example of the kind of evaluation that they're calling evaluation that Vitals helps you do. So you create your structure. You've got these input questions, which are your evaluation questions. Here, very simple, and your expected answer. So again, this is like unit testing, right? Very simple unit testing of the model, and then what's the approach to actually checking that, and what are we going to check it against? Here, they're using calling Anthropic and calling a particular model for Anthropic. And here kind of is an example of that result being presented. Nice tabular result. So you could, in a couple of hours, you could probably code up what I've just shown you. But you can achieve this result in a couple lines of code and test out that model. Okay. So Ragnar is the name of the package for doing RAG with R. It's also the name of a series of relay running races all over the world. It's also the name of a Norse god. So it's handling each of the steps. So this is one of those things that's really, really impressive that Posit is dishing up. Like people are assuming, I might be able to query my LLM from R, but can I really do things like RAG from R? No, you can totally do RAG from R. You can do all the steps of RAG from R. You can do, you can starting with that initial document processing across your corpus, the chunking that's absolutely necessary to get the right granularity for your for RAG, that the context augmentation, which is what RAG is really about, the embedding and the different ways to the different embeddings that you want to do based on the model that you're choosing for RAG. Managing storage, the retrieval, and then relating it to chat. So, and most of this stuff I have not personally experimented with, but these are, I have experimented with RAG, and I know that these are these essential steps. So it's really kind of an eye opener to me that this is available in R. There's no need to switch out and do it. And of course, Ragnar is other things. And I guess I've never watched that show, The Vikings. Does anybody watch that? Because I guess one of the big characters is Ragnar, right? Also, and I almost included a picture of the guy. So Shiny Chat, it's really what you imagine. I want to build a little chat client using Shiny. I start with Shiny Chat. And I think that you can see how easy it is. You know, here's just this stupidly simple little Shiny app example. You know, there's my little UI, just putting up the little, and notice how those of you who are familiar with Shiny, of course, we've got our UI function and our server side functions. And, you know, so either side of it, which are being provided by Shiny Chat and making it really simple. And then we've got our little, boom, we've got our little Shiny app that's calling out to whichever model that you've specified. And here they are specifying it, where did they? I'm just trying to see where they. Oh, right there. I'm sorry. Yeah, they specified that they're using the OpenAI model. Okay, with the starter thing. So really said that would have been nice when we built Chat BS rather than having to artisanally craft it the way we did. Okay, so that was Shiny Chat. Chatter is the way it's a way to extend RStudio to make a chat client, an LLM functionality available within the IDE itself. So see if we've got a really good example of that right here. Let's zoom in. Oops. There we go. I should ask, who here has done, and it's okay for students in my class to answer this question for a minute. Who's done R coding with ChatGPT's help, like using Copilot or anything like that? Yeah. But you're not now because you're writing great code right now. So this is analogous to what we were doing, you know, in February 2023 separately, where we'd bring up, there was either ChatGPT or that tool. I can't really, that code assistant tool that was helping write the code. But here it's actually integrated in to a window. And it's done sort of the way that RStudio is extended with Knitter. You know, Knitter is a package, but when you install the package, it's actually extending the functionality of RStudio. So this is one way to do it. Just install Chatter, and now you've got access to, you can ask it for help on your coding. That's one way to do the integrations. But the other way, so that's Chatter. Shiny Assistant is more of a standalone tool. Just a, let's see where the link to it was, right here. That's more of a it's Shiny Apps hosted assistant. So this is like Chatter, but separately hosted. Just you know, go to the web and ask it coding questions. So if you're not particularly interested in an actual integration, okay. What happened to my? Trying to figure out what there. Okay. There's a whole set of these sort of second level, what I would call second level assistance that we see people in production environments talking about that, where they're very focused on data analytics workflows, where they're collaborating with other people on their teams and in the companies. These are, I really haven't seen this come up very much at RPI. We've got some ad hoc techniques, but these are where there's different components in your workflows, and they and including personal workflows. Like this chores tool is where you've got maybe these menial tasks where you might manually write R code to do that. It provides ways to help create those little R helpers that maybe slice and dice your code. You do it a lot, and it's helping you do that. If you've got more of a project-oriented approach, we've talked about in previous RPIrates meetings, kind of a formal project-oriented approach to manage your R work. There's tools like Gander that help you do that. Some of these tools, I'm really not sure exactly what they do, and more cross-language tools like the Lang package, which is LLM-driven translation. GitHub Copilot. I'd hoped to do so. RPI has a enterprise license for GitHub, which means that everybody in the RPI community, both staff and students, are eligible for having their account extended for Copilot privileges. And it's a very quick little application. You have to verify your association with RPI, and it's like your start date, right? Something like that. Corey, you've done it. You've gone through the process.
I tried to.
You didn't get through it? Well, they rejected you the second time around?
It didn't let me submit it the second time around.
What's that?
I got an error when I tried to do it a second time.
Oh,
That never got resolved.
so if anybody's interested in this, because what this is like RStudio GitHub extension, and having RStudio server, which GitHub, except there's a little thing where you can turn on under your configuration, you can turn on Copilot, and then you have to have this Copilot capability enabled at GitHub, and it's a fairly simple process. I was able to get through it, but I found it a little bit annoying that see, our RPI IDs don't have our start date on them. Okay, so you basically have to present an ID and a verification of your work date. And I can't exactly remember how he did the second part, but I had some documentation I was able to present to them. And so I got mine enabled. And if you're at all interested in this, just contact me and we can talk about how to do that. But this gives an access to Copilot. Nothing we've talked about so far is Copilot. It's just pure LLM modeled by whoever's providing it. This is specifically Copilot by GitHub, and that level of integration and all that stuff that's happening. But I guess to emphasize yet another capability that's available to us, because the .cao's office has made GitHub Enterprise available to us at RPI, which is really powerful. don't even know what this is. And the final page, or the bottom of that page that I described earlier is just a set of links. And some of these admittedly are kind of stale, but what they are is a whole variety of examples of ways that you can use, that you can integrate LLMs into your R work. In taking advantage of ellmer, most of these in some way take advantage of ellmer. Some of these, like this link right here, I'm hovering over. Early on in their Posit's work and making these packages, like ellmer available, they had hackathons to build up to socialize them, their experiences with that. The challenges of actually having LLMs running locally and the scaling issues associated with that, some background stuff. And there's some other, I meant to provide a link. There's some links out there that I found in my research on talking about the quality of R code that's generated. So it's sort of that vibe coding thing. I couldn't find a really good example of vibe coding with R, like a really nice example that captured it. And I'm no good at it, so I couldn't do it myself. Enrique Santos down in the Tetherless World a couple of weeks ago did a Tetherless World talk on vibe coding with Java and reading a knowledge graph. And it was an amazing presentation. It was in an hour, he went from zero to a beautiful app with a really nice interface. And he admittedly says, I am not a UI designer, but he was able to polish, not only make this app do this, read from this graph database very effectively and grow this app and fine tune it and move widgets around, but he was able to even style it. And he went from zero to a beautiful app in less than an hour. And you can now effectively do the same thing with R. But he also, I should note, he's an expert on graph databases. He's an expert on Java coding. He knew exactly what he wanted. So when you have a very knowledgeable person driving vibe coding, he did a beautiful job. If you've got a person who doesn't know what they're doing, doesn't understand your data structure, doesn't understand like the R model that's being produced, it's sort of like garbage natural language in, beautiful garbage out. and so what you want to understand what's being produced. You want to be able to, if you're asking it, you can ask R to create code that does a particular model, models in a particular way, find a package that does something. And if you don't know what it's giving you, you don't know if you can, how to improve it. Yeah.
In this,
We can discuss this stuff. That was it for my slides. So we can have lots of fun discussion and questions.
so in terms of that demonstration you were just talking about, based on your knowledge of his general competency in the field, how long do you think it would have taken him to build that just naturally?
Oh, he actually said that. He said, probably most of doing the functionality, it was probably like a half a day. But he said it would have taken more than a half a day for him to get the interface down. So seriously, that's not his thing. So he would very quickly get to where he was interacting with the graph database and doing that. But it would take him more than an hour to get everything figured out. And one of the things that it was very good at doing, which surprised me, he did this is all live demo, is how there was an iteration that it would do is essentially it would like prototype the code would crash and it would iterate, it would figure out the problem, it would solve the problem, it would end up with executable code while we were watching. So that was really powerful, that iteration that it was doing. And that's the kind of thing that I would love to see demonstrated in R, because that the early testing that we did of R code generation, it was really just asking it to throw out code, and it wasn't trying to execute it at all. It was just throwing out this code. Hey, good luck. What Enriquez was doing, it was almost like a compile, kind of a, keep trying and analyze the problem, work the problem, propose a solution to itself, try that out, and then ultimately get it to execute. And it would be cool to see that same sort of thing with R. And I believe people are doing that sort of thing. I just haven't seen it done effectively, and I haven't seen it done in our class effectively at all. So, other questions? Have I got you excited about using LLMs and R? I'm not trying to get you excited about using. So people are increasingly going to be coding in R, in Python, they're going to be increasingly doing data analytics with, and the first place that they're going to go is some sort of a LLM-based interface. That's the first place they're going to go. And it's important to understand how that stuff works, the limitations of it, the power of it. For me, it's you need to understand my position where I came into this and like, what is this chat GPT nonsense? People are coding, at the time that I was, 2 years ago, almost 3 years ago, we were just hearing about how effective it could be, those early models could be at coding Python, because they had a huge sampling of GitHub. Okay, so there was a lot of Python code in GitHub. They were sampling GitHub. They were training on GitHub. So understandably, it could be very good. There wasn't nearly as much. There were orders of magnitude less lines of R code in GitHub. So, and so they had a limited training set. Plus they were training on things like Stack Overflow. So when you would put in these questions on like creating PCA, do a PCA biplot on empty cars. And it might have some code that looked okay. And then you turn right around and say, create a PCA biplot on empty cars. Ask it exactly the same question. And it came back with some stupid Stack Overflow error. It was like, that was its answer, was something it found on Stack Overflow. So really just crap, okay? And now you have the ability to actually have a possible solution where you could possibly engage and refine that. So that's really nice code. Now, could you, my teacher keeps yelling at me about properly labeling my graphs. Could you please? So, and tools like that Chatter, which integrates in to RStudio server or RStudio, and the Shiny Chat, not Shiny Chat, but the Shiny IDE extension. Those sorts of things are the kinds of things you might try out. So I don't know. So that's it. That's what I had. What sort of, I'm just curious, and just in forgetting about all this stuff, I know what these guys are working on. What sorts of things are people working on right now? Yeah.
Working on LLM with explainability.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a CS grad working with Chuck's word on explainability with LLM on wildlife.
So do you know about the work that we're doing? So, down in, Catalyst, we've got a couple people that have been working on LLM.
So I actually attended some of the Aaron's presentation earlier last year, I guess. Aaron Green
Oh, yeah, Aaron. Yeah.
on LLM. Yeah.
Yeah. Aaron did a wonderful job kind of on just describing how things work and stuff like that. So he's happily professoring somewhere out west. I think in Wisconsin. Is Aaron?
He's downstate, he's in Vassar.
Oh, right, Vassar. Yes, that's right. Just down the river, literally down the river. So,
He might be coming back to give a talk next semester.
what's that?
Relatedly,
Oh, that-
for the research talk that I'm organizing.
So hopefully it comes back. Well, hopefully. So if people don't want to hang around, you don't have to hang around. That's it. Please take pizza with you. If you got any R questions, Tom is happy to answer our questions.
Erickson, did you find,
So please take pizza and stuff.
did you by any chance incorporate DeepSeek and GPT-5 into ChatBS?
Feel free to take whatever you want. So there were issues with DeepSeek. Well, DeepSeek, you kind of have to, I think Enrique attempted to create an instance of DeepSeek. GPT-5, I think GPT-5 does point at, I think that's one of the options in.
Yeah. It's pretty good compared to GPT-4.
Well,
So,
yes and no. This is why you have to,
well, I
Slower than in the one
benchmark test.
see you guys tomorrow. Good luck.
Yes,
I did a bench.
Yeah.
I wanted to check with something.
So let me, just before you do it, let me kill my, let me figure out where my, I just want to stop the record.